Okay, so you probably heard of the word genre before. I don't imagine that's a new term for you. You might think of it in relation to either music, R&B, or country, or punk, or whatever. Those are genres of music. Or literature, that's another place that you will often hear the word genre. Historical nonfiction, biography, teens, okay, those are all genres. And what that means is just general categories. That's the word genre means. It's general categories. For our purposes, we need to understand that, actually, just in general, you need to understand that genres are general categories, but without rigidly defined boundaries. So I'll give you an example. If you are listening to, if you have a pop star, somebody, you like pop music, and this pop performer sings a country song, the lines have kind of been blurred. So then what do you call that? Is that a country song, a pop song, pop country, okay? So there's genres. The genres are still there, but the boundaries have been blurred a little bit. Again, clarity lines aren't always there. These are just general definitions. The other thing you need to understand about genres is that they're unspoken, okay? And they're flexible templates. Genres reflect how people talk, okay? Whether ASL or in English. They are very spontaneous, okay? And they're never declared before. That's what we mean by unspoken. I don't walk into a classroom and say, I will now speak to you in explanatory genre, okay? You don't say that, but I have a template in my head for how this type of genre goes, and we'll talk about, I said explanatory, we'll talk about that in a minute. And when I say template, I mean that there's certain patterns, there's certain structures that are kind of standard, done in the same ways, some of the approaches are the same, the elements are the same, and I'll give you an example. So, telling a story is a type of narrative genre. And we'll talk about 4 types in the next couple slides. If I were to ask all of you to tell me a story about one time that you were embarrassed, even though each of your stories would be very different and the word you chose would be different and everything would be different about it, they all have certain elements that are the same. You all would probably have some characters in it. You all would probably have a time frame in it. There would be a sort of an abstract to it, okay? So there's certain elements that are consistent, and that's what you need to know about. That's what I mean by a template. The other thing that's important to know about genres is that they're internalized. They're part of our native use. We do them all the time. Anytime you tell a story, you give directions, you try to convince somebody of something, of your point of view. You're following a template for narrative genre, and again, it's internalized. It's intrinsically within us. We don't know that we're doing it. Also, the other thing to remember about genres is that in the end, people are creative. So even though we're going to talk about structures and goals and templates and some common patterns in genre, language is dynamic, and everybody is very creative in their storytelling and might not follow the exact same pattern that you might follow telling the same story. So sometimes that does make prediction a little bit difficult, but as an interpreter, what you really need, the reason that we're studying this, is that you need to be able to recognize when you are working in a linguistic genre. You need to be able to define the elements, and then you need to figure out how to use it to your benefit. So that's why we're talking about it in class.